Kia ora, wama and welcome viewers. I'm your host Javed Khan and welcome back to Open the Mirror, a panorama of images New Zealand capturing you and the world around us. Now, the festive season is in full force. I hope you guys are having a fantastic time. The New Year's brings a lot of promise, but let's look at today's show first of all. Now, in the first part of Open the Mirror, we feature Auckland City Council CEO David Rankin. He's talking to us about the controversy surrounding his council's $9 million agreement with the New Zealand Housing Foundation. Now, interestingly enough, John Banks had no comment on this. He said it was a waste of time on this, dubbed as the Bubble and Squeak controversy. So let's cross over now and hear what Dave Rankin had to say.
The Auckland City Council will renegotiate the scope of an assisted home ownership program with the New Zealand Housing Foundation, a charitable trust. The chairperson of the Council's Community Services Committee, Councillor Paul Goldsmith, said that the Council's vote follows an amicable settlement reached between the new Council and the trustees of the Foundation to negotiate a scaled-back program. David Rankin, Chief Executive Auckland City Council, had signed the $9 million contract with the New Zealand Housing Foundation just a couple of weeks before the October 13 elections. The previous council resolved to spend $9 million in a program with the foundation to subsidise up to around 100 houses in Auckland City. In October, council lawyers advised that a change to the foundation's trust arrangements meant that the council could withdraw from the project. The New Zealand Housing Foundation has disputed that assessment. Auckland City Council has a targeted rate already collected for affordable housing and will put this towards a program to be agreed with the New Zealand Housing Foundation.
Affordable housing. What exactly has gone wrong with affordable housing? Or what ails affordable housing?
Well, the newly elected council has a different policy approach than the previous council. Affordable housing is an issue, but don't see it really as a more of a central government's responsibility in terms of funding. So that's really brought about a different approach, I guess, than the previous council had. So our job, of course, is to try and make that work.
How many of such projects had ratepayers' money allocated to them in the name of, developments and several other projects?
Well, we're really only at the start of commencing the agreement with New Zealand Housing Foundation. The last council conceived of the idea fairly early on its term, but it took quite a while for us to work through to see which parties might be interested in doing something with us and in negotiating an agreement. And in fact, it was only finally signed up in September. So the arrangement was really about to start, and that the council had made only a small proportion of its grant had been paid over for that purpose.
I see. Like, I understand the previous council undertook consultation work as well twice. And was the public notified and made aware of the ratepayers' money forming a huge segment of that understanding with NZHF?
Well, the public was fully consulted on by the last council on the concept of was a targeted rate, as it was called. So it was a special rate that we identified for community development and housing. And there were probably a couple of our annual plan processes where that was all articulated pretty clearly. So the last council was very clear about its intention to collect $1 million a year from the rates to put into this sort of project. It was clear that it was putting $9 million into the arrangement with the with this particular proposal. So I think we met all of our obligations to make that information public and to consult over it. And we did have some, there were people who made submissions both for it and against it over the term of the last council.
Then this council totally has a different viewpoint on...
Yeah, and as part of next year's annual plan process, this council will effectively go back and give people a chance. Like, this council is effectively going to be including in the draft annual plan next year the fact that it doesn't see itself continuing to collect that targeted rate for housing. And that will effectively give people the chance to express their view on that. Although we will have reached an agreement for a reduced program by then in any case. But the principle of the council collecting money for affordable housing, people will have a chance to comment on that as part of next year's draft annual plan.
Yeah, but you know, the precedent that is being set over here, the LTCCP plan, which is most of the time it is of a 10-year duration. I mean, a new council comes into place and disposes of the work done by the previous council. Yeah,
well, I think that's it's democracy that you know, you have elections and people get elected on programs. I mean, the new mayor and council were very clear about their position on affordable housing pre-election, and you know, that's an element of the 10-year plan that they're clear they're going to alter. So, I mean, that's what democracy is all about.
Are there any other, you know, plans on the anvil to be disposed of?
Well, as part of the new council has basically made a commitment to have a lower rates increase than was previously projected. So, apart from this project, there are others they've flagged that they're intending to slow down with, and that'll all be part of the draft annual plan for public input as well next year. Mm-hmm. So this happens. I mean, 10-year plans are obviously have to be altered from time to time, particularly after we've had an election.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you foresee any the court action or any legal action from the foundation?
No, because the whole basis of proceeding with them has been for us. We both had a discussion about the fact that we've obviously got differing views on where we are legally, but it's pointless, I suppose, spending money on lawyers and court actions. So the agreement in principle was that we would work together to come up with a package that both of us could agree with. That would be smaller than the original program, because the council accepted that it had some sort of commitment there to honour some sort of moral, you know, commitment to honour something.
Brian Donnelly, its director, has said that, you know, they believe that they have the contract and that, you know, although, you know, they're willing to go in for renegotiation. Yeah,
I think that's an accurate statement. That effectively, our legal positions don't agree, our legal views don't agree, so we could spend a lot of time and money fighting all that out, which is pointless for both of us. So the agreement that we reached in a meeting with them, which I was part of, was that we wouldn't go down that track. We will sit down and work out a revised program.
The stand Auckland City Mayor John Banks has taken on Eden Park funding has been vindicated after the government pitched in with a grant of $190 million as its contribution towards the overall outlay of $240 million for the 2011 Rugby World Cup. The Mayor confirmed his council will commit $22 million for the upgrade of the Eden Park precincts. This revelation follows Banks's strong confidence in the redevelopment board, spearheaded by John Waller, and the government's go-ahead of the redesign, raising the seating capacity to 60,000.
Now finally, Auckland City Council has committed itself. What exactly has prompted this change?
Well, the mayor and I think probably the majority view of the new council was to make a contribution of about 20 million to work that needs to be done in the vicinity of the stadium, and the council has yet to formally consider that, because it's obviously it's taken to this week for the government to announce where we now are with it all. So clearly in the new year we'll have to make some formal decisions, but the mayor has made his position, and you know, probably the majority view of the council he's articulated pretty clearly as being this contribution of around 20 million to the precinct, making Eden Park a better neighbour, helping with the transport moving people in and out of the area in big numbers. That's the kind of focus that the Mayor is articulating should be the use of our funds. But it is good to see the progress being made on getting the funding put together and the government committing more money effectively and keeping the thing on track.
Now, ACC, Auckland City Council, has always instigated and brought the name of ARC into picture, saying that Auckland City Council would match dollar by dollar to ARC's contribution. I mean, what is the present stand of the council?
Well, I think both the previous council and the one elected in October have been pretty clear that there absolutely should be a contribution by the regional council. That's really because the Rugby World Cup is not an Auckland City Council thing. It will benefit the entire region as well as the country. Eden Park is in our city, but it's effectively a regional asset, and the view of the last Mayor and Council and the new one is that it's not really fair that Auckland City Council ratepayers should pick up all these costs. So rather than trying to get each separate council in the region to contribute, the most practical solution was to go to the regional council, which collects its money from around the region, including of course Auckland City Council ratepayers, and get a regional contribution that way. And obviously the government also thinks it's appropriate that the regional council consider a contribution.
I see. ARC Chairman Mike Lee is of the view that Mount Smart Stadium is a better legacy than Eden Park. What is the stand of the Auckland City Council?
Well, the Auckland City Council's view has been to, I mean, we had the debate about the waterfront stadium, but that got dropped. So the Auckland City Council's view has always been that it should go to Eden Park once that waterfront stadium option was taken off, rather than Mount Smart, for a variety of reasons. And there was actually there has been quite a lot of work done about the various venue options over the years leading up to the bid for the World Cup and since. So our council would support that view. We respect the fact the regional council's got Mount Smart Stadium, and they might well have some arguments for that, but at the end of the day, the government has now decided clearly that it will be at Eden Park. The government are fronting up with most of the money, so I think that's probably really settled it.
Like you raised a point saying that you have some sort of interest or some sort of facts that support Eden Park rather than Mount Smart Stadium. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, it's not so much, there weren't really studies done by the City Council. I'm just aware that when the bid was put together, in Dublin, the team that did that looked at venues and presented the package around Eden Park. There was some more work done subsequently, I think, by the government or one of its entities around the merits of the various venue possibilities. And that's in fact what led up to the Minister Mallard floating the idea of the waterfront stadium. Because if you recall, the choice that the government gave the city was, do you want the waterfront or do you want Eden Park? And that was based on all the work it had done about where it best should go. So given the fact the waterfront was taken off the agenda, that left Eden Park.
Now, do you have fears of the contractors raising the price threshold now that the government has pitched in with funds and now that Auckland City Council has committed something?
No, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I mean, the government formed a development board to run this project, which has got some business people on it that Mr. Waller, John Waller, heads, and I would expect, based on my knowledge, that they're going to run that construction project, oversee that construction project in a professional way. Fletchers, who are probably New Zealand's preeminent building entity, have got the contract, so I would expect that no one is going to play those sort of games around pricing.
Coming up next.
There are unscrupulous politicians who use fear-mongering and scapegoating in order to secure some measure of electoral advantage. There are security agencies who, taking advantage of the window of opportunity presented to them by 9/11, in order to expand their powers, in order to expand their budget and personnel, raised the specter of the jihadi threat amongst us.
Next week.
To my astonishment, as this group of fundamentalist evangelical fanatics rose and stood in a state of rapture at these racial and religious slanders against Islam and Muslims, sitting in their midst in Wellington 3 nights ago, to his eternal shame, was the Honorary Consul of Israel. Shame on him for sitting in such company.
The world's most amazing bridge, a wonderful piece of architecture, a heroic bridge, a great icon for good design and the city of sails. And by putting that together, we can sort of go forward to the rest of the world and say we are the pure New Zealand. We are, thinking forward. We're putting these great architectural statements forward, and it's going to attract people to the city.
Up in the Mirror on satellite, cable and terrestrial network.